Welcome to another FPL team selection video. I'm also going to be talking about double game week 36 and 37, what we know so far and what could possibly happen there. So stay tuned for all of that good stuff and let's get straight into it. In game week 31, I've got 55 points, but with one player left in Weghorst at home to Everton. I like the fixture, not necessarily the player and the team he plays for in Burnley, but I could still get a return there. The bulk of my points came from the free Spurs players there, with Heung-min Son getting back-to-back double-digit returns. At home, he's been one of the best players all season. Doherty with a goal and an assist. Imagine if he also got a clean sheet. That would have been an even bigger return. Kulusevski as well. This was the ideal scenario. All of my free Spurs players getting a bonus point at least. And Harry Kane, not blanking. He got the assist, but he also got a yellow card. And that was pretty much the best case scenario. And I would not have imagined it otherwise. And Reece James, this was a bit of a nightmare transfer. I always said this, even heading into the Game Week 31 deadline. My preference was to go for Joao Cancelo, but I was 0.3 million off, and therefore I had to settle with Reece James. But with the news coming about of the Chelsea doubles in 36 and 37, to be fair, I don't really mind it too much, but I'm also going to anticipate and accept that there's going to be quite a few times where Reece James isn't going to play, and Chelsea are going to be more focused on the Champions League and FA Cup, so Reece James is going to be frustrating from time to time, but when he does start, I would expect him to get some pretty good hauls. Robertson with yet another clean sheet, and we got the news just before the deadline that Trent was going to be benched in favour of Joe Gomez, and that's why he went from in my starting 11 all the way down to my bench, and I'm quite happy that I did this. So if Trent Alexander-Arnold was actually going to start, I wouldn't have got Reece James in, and I would have started Doherty anyway. I just wasn't really confident about benching the Spurs fullback. I didn't expect him to get 14 points, but I'm quite happy with my decision making in that regard. I did get rid of Cody, who was very unlucky not to get a clean sheet against Aston Villa, but in the long run, I think Reece James, Chelsea defenders, also Joao Cancelo, all offer much better value. And then Ramsdale in goal, I made the wrong decision there, going for him over Jose Sarr. And recently my goalkeeper choices haven't been the greatest, but it's only a 2-point difference anyway. Both of them did blank, although once again Wolves were very unfortunate. Saka didn't really have much to do. He didn't do that well against Crystal Palace. Arsenal were completely off it. Salah as my captain. I mean, the Saturday games were absolutely awful, and everything didn't seem to go right except for Rafinha and Robertson. But thankfully, Rafinha did get an assist. I'll be happy with that. But long term, he's not really a great asset in my opinion, especially with all the blanks like in Game Week 33. And then up front, Che Adams with a blank. He had a good chance and didn't take it. It was a pretty poor finish. And Weghorst getting a yellow card against Manchester City. So same old story. The forwards not delivering apart from Harry Kane. And even then, he didn't get a great return regardless. So it's the midfield and defence carrying me as usual. And my bench, a few issues here. So Broja is actually ineligible to play against Chelsea, his parent club. Then you've got Jose Sarr who's going to blank in Game Week 33. Then Kieran Tierney. His injury could be very serious, so Arteta said that they still have to do a scan, but it's not looking good. And there were reports, I think, by the Scotland Sun that Tierney could be out for the rest of the season. And that would not only be, really poor for our FPL teams, but also for Arsenal and their top four hopes. So Kieran Tierney is going to be a massive blow. He's also going to be doubling in 36, as we'll get onto very soon. So it's very disappointing. And this kind of makes my Game Week 32 team selection easier because I was always kind of got a doubt in my mind. Do I bench a Liverpool fullback? I'll be talking about this very soon. Do I bench Tierney? Now things are a bit more clear cut. Trent Alexander-Arnold is fit and available. He should be good in time for matchday 9 against Benfica in UCL Fantasy as well as Game Week 32 in FPL. And now I'm going to be talking about my team selection, how I'm lining up, my captaincy thoughts, and then talking about double game weeks 36 and 37 before talking about my own plans regarding those game weeks and my remaining chip, the free hit. For those of you that aren't aware or didn't see the reaction stream, I'm pretty happy with my rank rise. I went around 10k places up, so can't really complain too much. The score overall was pretty decent, but we've got to focus completely now on Game Week 32 and the rest. Can't do anything about Weghorst or the rest of the Burnley players in Everton, so my rank might actually decrease slightly because of the captainers for Weghorst and also all the other double game weekers on display. But Ramsdale is going to be in goal at home to Brighton. I still back Arsenal to keep a clean sheet there. Brighton have been struggling a lot, but I would be less confident if Kieran Tierney does miss out, and it looks quite likely. And this could also disrupt Arsenal in the midfield. So if Xhaka moves and plays as the left back, then that just disrupts the midfield balance between him and Partey, which, to be fair, they were awful against Crystal Palace anyway, but who was good in that game? I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to single out one good performer there. But Ramsdale, I would still back slightly more than Sarr away to Newcastle, but that is still a tricky decision on paper. I think some people might favour the Wolves goalkeeper before selling him in Game Week 33 onwards. And originally, as I talked about in my reaction stream, which was prior to the Monday Night Football, I had Kieran Tierney in my starting 11 and Doherty was on my bench. But with Tierney set to miss out, I think that this could be a good opportunity to play Doherty. I've got the two Liverpool fullbacks, which isn't ideal. I don't expect a clean sheet there for Liverpool or City, but you never know. It could even be a very, highly contested 0-0, high-quality game, and it ends up being a stalemate. It could happen, but I still expect both teams to score. Reece James away to Southampton. I actually expected him to start against Brentford and possibly be benched against Southampton. Now, it could actually be the reverse, and he plays here, and either way, I think it's just a good opportunity here, and I would rather play Reece James than Che Adams, although that could still backfire. Robertson and Trent are still two of the best options long term. I'm happy to have kept Trent, although I could have just made that move from Trent to Cancelo and balanced things out a little bit more, but happy to keep both of them. My midfield looks pretty solid. Rafinha away to Watford. This is probably his last game for me, if not one of his last for sure. You've got Salah. I would not discount him. As I said in my reaction stream, he's still a great option. He's still got some very good underlying numbers. Only Harry Kane really trumps him in most stats, and even then, he's got 300 more minutes if you're kind of comparing him since his return from the African Cup of Nations. Bukayo Saka at home to Brighton, that's still a decent fixture, although I mainly back Arsenal from a defensive point of view rather than offensive point of view. They don't really score too many goals because they don't have that clear-cut option up front who just scores those chances. Heung-min Son and Kulusevski away to Villa, I think they're pretty decent. I wouldn't be surprised if Aston Villa beat Spurs here, but at the same time, Son, Kulusevski and Doherty could still get points even if their club loses. In terms of the captaincy, it's going to be quite close, I think, between Heung-min Son and Salah. I still think I'd lean a bit more towards Son, although Harry Kane would be my preference this week. If I had to pick one player, his away record is stunning, not only this season, but throughout his whole career. He is the highest scoring player away from home in Premier League history, which is incredible. Weghorst is my only option up front. I don't really have any other choice. He is facing Norwich, which could be appealing, but Che Adams is facing Chelsea, and he could do something. I mean, Brentford put 4 past them, and Broja isn't eligible to play. Tierney could be missing out, so let's keep an eye on that as the week progresses. But I think the team speaks for itself. I could make a transfer. I think Harvey Barnes or Maddison would be kind of at the top of our list, especially with the doubles in 36 and 37. But I'm actually looking to roll the transfer this week and then have 2 heading into Game Week 33 potentially. But that might change because of the news of the doubles. I'm going to use a graphic provided by Ben Krellin, so big shout out to him, of course, as always, and then talk about the fixtures, which teams are doubling in 36 and 37, because there are 4 of them, all of the doubles in 36 and 37, even those that might not have back-to-back doubles, and talk about the repercussions on our teams, including my own, and how that might change my free hit plan, because in the last week or so, I was considering using the free hit in 36, but now it might actually be better to use it in Game Week 33. This graphic shows the schedule for all Premier League clubs until the end of the season and includes FA Cup games, Champions League matches, etc. But I'm going to be talking about the Premier League specifically, of course. So there are going to be plenty of double game weeks. 10 teams play twice in double game week 36 and 6 play twice in double game week 37. And 4 of those teams double in 36 and 37. And those teams are Aston Villa, Chelsea, Everton and Leicester. So those are going to be 4 of the teams that you really want to target from Game Week 34 onwards, and even with our free transfers. And a lot of us will actually be in a really strong position and have plenty of doublers in Game Week 36. And that's why, if you have the bench boost remaining, I think it's ideal to play that chip in Game Week 36 and possibly use your remaining free hit or free hits in Game Week 33 and possibly 37 or even 38, which I've talked about before. So just to recap, Arsenal in double Game Week 36 are facing Leeds at home and Tottenham away. Aston Villa are facing Burnley away and Liverpool at home. Chelsea are facing Wolves at home, Leeds away. So looking at those teams already, Arsenal and Chelsea have some pretty good doubles, but you really would want to target Chelsea. The doubles look better there. The only problem is if they are still in the Champions League, they might still have their minds elsewhere. So that's going to be a bit of a tricky one, but let's see how it pans out in the other competitions. You would expect Chelsea to reach the FA Cup final, but you never know. Everton face Leicester away and Watford away. Meanwhile, Leicester have Everton at home and Norwich at home. And looking at those teams, I think Everton, once again, I really wouldn't be targeting them, but Leicester could be pretty interesting. They've got some good fixtures. James Maddison, Barnes, even possibly Iheanacho with the lack of forward options up front. They could be pretty decent, or even Schmeichel as your budget goalkeeper. Then we've got Leeds, who face Arsenal away and Chelsea at home. Rafinha's the only one to consider, but if I'm being honest, I probably wouldn't even go for him, and I'd rather sell him in Gameweek 33 onwards. So I'm not really a big fan of Leeds, and they have looked better under Jesse Marsch, but I still probably would offload all of those players. Then for Liverpool, Tottenham at home and Villa away, I wouldn't discount Salah just yet, and I would still keep him throughout this run. I know it's very tempting to move to Kevin De Bruyne or maybe Sterling. You could go for Harry Kane and Heung-min Son instead and balance everything else and go for a lot of premium defenders, but I'd still have Salah. I'd probably go for Robertson and Trent. That is my ideal triple up in Liverpool. Jota is a great option when he does start. The problem is he's going to be sharing minutes there with Diaz. That's what you would imagine, especially with the Champions League and FA Cup on display as well. Then Norwich are facing West Ham at home and Leicester away. Meanwhile, Tottenham are facing Liverpool away and Arsenal at home. That double isn't necessarily great, but you'd still back Son, Harry Kane, and possibly Doherty, Kulusevski to do pretty well. The other options don't really entice me that much, but those four are still very good. And if you have a triple up in Spurs, I think you're well set for double Gameweek 36 already. And the final team to double in Gameweek 36 would be Watford, who face Crystal Palace away and Everton at home. I don't think many of us would consider their assets, to be fair. Cucho Hernandez could be a good budget enabler, and if you're bench boosting, that could be perfect for you. But even Dennis, who's kind of been in and out against Liverpool, he was benched. Same with Joshua King. And then you look at their midfielders and defence. For me, it's a no-go. So it's only really Cucho Hernandez that I'd consider. Then the teams to double in Gameweek 37, Aston Villa, who once again, they double in 36 as well. They would face Crystal Palace at home and Burnley at home. Some pretty good doubles there. And from Gameweek 34 onwards, Aston Villa have some pretty good fixtures to conclude the season. It's just the next two or three. So those of you might be thinking, well, I have Coutinho, I have Matty Cash. Do I keep hold of them? Well, to be fair, you could just do so and roll the transfer or just free hit in 33 and then have them back in time for Gameweek 34. But players like Dean, I'll be completely honest, I'd probably sell them. I just don't think they're great FPL assets. I'd rather have Matty Cash, who's been much better this season. So my kind of thinking there is have Coutinho and Cash. The rest, I'm not really a big fan of. Burnley, meanwhile, in Gameweek 37, face Tottenham away and Aston Villa away. So a lot of these teams, as you can tell, have pretty much back-to-back away games or back-to-back home fixtures, which is pretty interesting. Burnley, though, I mean, really it's just Weghorst and whoever else, maybe Nick Pope. But their options aren't particularly great, just like with Everton. Chelsea have Man United away and Leicester at home. That's a pretty decent double, to be fair. Not the best, but I still think it's pretty decent, all things considered. And I think Chelsea, if they turn up and play their strongest 11, they could actually win both games and get a lot of points there. And then Crystal Palace facing Villa and Everton away. So once again, back-to-back away games there for them. And then Everton face Brentford at home and Crystal Palace at home. So it's kind of just pretty much a pattern for all of these teams, really, isn't it? Leicester facing Watford and Chelsea, both away from home. So when you look at this, the teams you want to target are Spurs. Despite the double in 36 being pretty poor, I think their fixtures are so good until the end of the season, and they have some of the best options, especially in terms of value in defence, midfield and attack. You're looking at Liverpool, of course, because they're one of the best teams. Manchester City still would have one double remaining. It's just, it remains unclear when that double would fall under. But according to Ben Crellin, Man City will definitely double in Gameweek 36 if they beat Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-finals. They might have a chance of doubling in 36 even if they lose to Liverpool, but it looks more likely that they will double if they beat Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-finals. So just bear that in mind, and that would be the Wolves fixture that should have been played in Gameweek 33. But of course that collides with the FA Cup right now. So that's pretty much the kind of rundown about all of these fixtures. Let me know what you think and which teams are you going to be targeting. But Liverpool, I'd still target City, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, despite, their very shaky performance yesterday, Leicester, Aston Villa from Game Week 34 onwards, but right now I wouldn't be getting them in. So I think those teams offer some very good value. Everton, yeah, you could have someone like Gordon or something potentially, but I just really don't like their options. The same goes for Burnley, even though I did bring in Verkos this week. And yeah, apart from that, I wouldn't be that fussed about the rest of the teams, but I think those are the ones you really want to target with your free transfers and when you're using the free hit in Game Week 36, 37, or even the bench boost, which could be really good. And you could actually design your team in such a way with a wildcard in 34 where you just cover all of these weeks perfectly and you can use those chips and you can actually maximize every single opportunity you have at your disposal. Now I'm going to be showing you my team and how it would look like in the future. I'm not really going to be showing you the amount of transfers I'd be making, just how my team looks like without transfers heading into those really important game weeks to conclude this season. This is how I'd line up in Game Week 33 without making any transfers. I've got a few double Game Week players, but not that many, and I don't really have any of the best captaincy options, even though those captaincy options we're talking about, Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo, aren't exactly the greatest, and it would also probably be at the detriment of having a Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, Mohamed Salah, and all these single game week players who could actually outscore the double game week ones. But Ramsdale is a pretty decent option, and he'd probably be on my free hit as well. Kieran Tierney, I don't mind too. The problem is, he's probably going to be out for Game Week 33 if this injury is serious, which is a big shame. Bukayo Saka is also a decent option. Che Adams, Broja and Verkos, all double game weekers, but they're not exactly the best on display. I've got some good single game week players in Doherty, Robertson, even Reece James, Salah, Heung-min Son, etc. But a free hit would improve my team considerably here, and the main reason why I'm leaning towards a free hit in 33 is because my team is actually pretty well set for Game Week 36. So we look at Game Weeks 34 and 35, doesn't really matter too much right now, but then we look at double Game Week 36 and I've already got 11 double Game Week players. Rafinha's on my bench because I can't play him over Che Adams. You have to have at least one forward, so I'd have to think about this because I only have one Chelsea player. I would actually want to get one or two more potentially. Manchester City could double in Game Week 36 like I talked about previously, and I would like to get Joao Cancelo, possibly a City midfielder as well. So I've got a few decisions to make here. I've already got some of the best captaincy options on double Game Week 36 as opposed to 33 where I don't really have them, so maybe a free hit is more beneficial there anyway. I've already got more doublers, and I just think that my team looks better suited here. I already have 11 double game weekers without having to make a free transfer from right now because of the amount of teams that are actually doubling in 36. And then there are those 4 teams that double in 36 and 37. So if I bring more of these players in, I'm actually already pretty well prepared for 36 and 37 as opposed to free hitting in 36 and then not having those players in time for Game Week 37 if you catch my drift. So the Aston Villa players like Cash and Coutinho I look to bring in from Game Week 34 onwards, but then I would also have to get rid of some of these players. Now what I'm considering actually is potentially getting rid of Tierney, especially if he's injured. Then I could get a cheap bench fodder option and then look to improve my attackers and midfield instead. So I've got a few decisions to make here, and another possibility is just getting Joao Cancelo, especially if he doubles in Game Week 36, but that would require a downgrade elsewhere. So I'm not really going to completely focus on the transfers I'm going to make from now until Game Week 36 because I've got a lot of different options at my disposal, but I just think that the free hit is probably better suited for another game week in my team in Game Week 33 or 37, because if we look at Game Week 37, I don't really have that many double game weekers, only 2 actually. So Game Week 37 or 33 looks pretty ideal for me to use that last free hit chip that I have at my disposal. For those of you that have 2 free hits and maybe the bench boost, I think it's quite simple. You'd use the free hits in 33 and 37 and the bench boost in 36, although there is Game Week 38, which is also a pretty good time to use the free hit as well, especially with the amount of rotation and good fixtures for certain teams. So I don't think it's clear cut. And those of you who might have only 1 free hit chip left, just like myself, it might be better for you to use in 36 actually, because you might not have a triple up in Spurs or Arsenal or a few other players. Some of you may disagree anyway, because if you look at Game Week 36, some of my double game week players like Doherty, Son and Kulusevski, their double isn't exactly great, but I still like those players and the value they offer that I wouldn't mind keeping them in time for Game Week 36. So hopefully you caught all of that. Let me know what you think of these plans. Obviously in terms of the transfers, that will all play a big part, but players like Maddison could be coming into my team, Coutinho, Cash, I've got my eye on all of them. The problem is which ones do I get? Joao Cancelo I'd love to have and go very big at the back, but the problem is, Kieran Tierney could be out for some time, so that might be an easy transfer, but then that might require downgrade elsewhere. Maybe Rafinha could become a bench fodder option like Jacob Ramsey or Gordon or even someone else, maybe a bit more expensive, and then I could have a very good defence and a pretty solid team overall. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. What are your plans now following the news about Double Gaming 36 and 37? There's going to be more news along the way, and kind of a few things that we kind of predicted wrong is Aston Villa against Burnley. We had a feeling that it could go in Game Week 34, but it looks like it's going to be in Game Week 37 instead. So pretty interesting stuff all round, but Double Game Week 36, as expected, is the biggest double game week of the season, and Arsenal versus Spurs, that huge game for the top 4 race, is going to be 10 days before the final game of the season, and it's going to be the third last match for both teams. So let's see what you guys think. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM and Dylan_RCM on Instagram. You can join the Discord server. The link is in the description below. There's also the channel memberships and the Patreon. Consider joining and having exclusive early access to all my videos. Take care, enjoy the football, good luck with the rest of Game Week 31, as well as Game Week 32, which is going to be the first time since Game Week 15 in December that we're going to have a game week that's not a double or a blank game week, and that just shows how insane this season has been so far. So let's see what happens here, and I'll see you next time.